validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. All right. It looks like we still got a two-part situation here, so haven't quite gotten that stream key yet, but we are actually live right now on TikTok and on YouTube. So this is actually going to be a very interesting situation. And I'm going to keep giving you guys updates as it goes along. And then I got to reach out to Mr. Pibbs and let him know the results of this. So as we get started, let's go ahead and recognize that, you know, we're about, what, 10 minutes late today, 15 minutes late today. It's okay. Typically, we go live 7 nights a week, around about the same time of night. We're actually going to be trying to start at the top of the hour when daylight savings time comes in November. But right now, we're typically like half past the hour, quarter past the hour, well, 3/4 past the hour, something like that. 15 minutes to the next hour, however you want to look at it. But we do not let the sun rise without going live. So since we don't always go start on time, we ask you guys to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, smash those reaction buttons while you're here, and then hit that check the membership and look and see what we got going on YouTube, because we're releasing different content every night of the week. So with that being said, I told you guys I was going to do some research. I found out some stuff about that Trump coin. We're going to be talking about that on Monday. Not actually the meme coin. There's actually a 250 year commemoration coin that's being released by the United States Mint, the people that print the money, and they're releasing two types of coins. One's a dollar coin that's gold plated looking, and the other one's actually 24 karat gold. And we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about who's selling it, how much they could potentially make off of it, what it would likely be priced at, and then we're going to be going over some of the issues as to some of the fallout of why some people don't want it to be done, and then like I'm going to feed this into how you guys can potentially use this as an investment opportunity, but also the lack of positivity in your ability to utilize this on a regular basis in standard practice. So you're going to see a lot of stuff happening on Monday. Now we have different topics every night of the week. Sunday we have questions and comments from the fans, so you guys have questions about what you guys got going on, and I give you guys different information on how to handle that. Or provide you guys with some very detailed insight in the membership, because depending on what it is, we've probably got a step-by-step guide or walkthrough or something like that that is in the membership that aids you guys in your ability to be successful. Now, beyond that, we have on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays a lot of business and politics, where on Monday we talk about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. Then on Tuesdays, we talk about different ways to make money, save money, invest money, budget the money, different ways to think about the money, because it is a mindset shift when you finish making the capital that you're looking for, then having the capabilities to make the proper decisions to spend the capital correctly, so that you're not in a position where the money is being spent faster than you can make it. You know what I'm saying? Now, Wednesday, we give you guys information about quite often different countries around the world that you can invest in. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Today being Saturday, we give you guys self-improvement and personal development information, relationship topics like the one we're talking about today, socialization, negotiations, building your brand, and then we give you guys more and more information about promotions, raises, retirements, how to negotiate these situations, forced retirement, severance packages, termination, and then how to build your 20 or 30-year plan, because knowing where you want to be at in the future and how you're going to get there are two of the most important things in your life. You don't get an Uber without selecting a destination. You don't put the MapQuest or the Google Maps or whatever, the Waze, whatever you use for GPS location. You do not have step-by-step instructions from even the AI without putting your destination in there. You do not select classes for your college degree without having a curriculum as to what's the final destination to get your degree. So everything in life requires you to know what the destination is and what the curriculum is to achieve that. And then you would be put in a position where you would have to figure out what all steps you need to accomplish to reach that particular goal. And when we start talking about retirement, which is what we talk about on this show, is how to build your future where your later is greater than today, and your capabilities of that was interesting, and your abilities to plan for the future, not just like 75 years from now retirement, but having a more effective lifestyle now or next year or the year after that, where things are less financially stressful, more money is in your accessibility, and you have more options and solutions than just borrowing from a friend or a family member, Amscot, or some other business that's designed to take more money out of your pocket than what they needed to give you. So we go over a lot of stuff on this show, right? And today we're supposed to be talking about the 7 relationship red flags that are actually financial warning signs. And this is going to be the expat edition, because I know that we've been talking about going to different countries this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective. So when we talk about going somewhere, we talk about the fellas, hey, if you can't find what you're looking for here, you can hop a plane and go somewhere else and find it. It might be cheaper. It might be more effective. It makes a lot of sense for you to factor in and pay attention to, where you want to go and how you want to get there, but then who you're going to be doing this with and who you're going to be doing this for. And this is the same factors that you can utilize in modern society here in Western culture, but Western culture is a lot more volatile, because while Western women don't really agree Part of the largest part of the issue with men finding the right women in Western culture is the behavior of the women in the Western culture. So, and I can go on a 2-hour tangent about that, but that's not what we're talking about today. So as we get into this topic, I greatly appreciate for you guys. If you guys want to jump in the comment section, feel free to do so. We actually have on the YouTube side of things, we actually have through StreamYard direct contact with you guys. I'm trying to get a stream key to phase TikTok directly into the larger conversation. So I know you guys on TikTok are going to see me talking to people on YouTube and Twitch and not see their comments and vice versa. But just note that as we're still working on this, because we've been trying to get the stream key for a long time, at some point you will have a lot of comments, and I'm going to be having a conversation with somebody that's actually here. You just can't see their comments yet. So as soon as I get this merged together, then everybody's comments will be showing up on the screen. But until that happens, just kind of bear with us. Now, as you're here, make sure that you guys match those reaction buttons. Show some hello, Lily. Make sure that you guys show some respect for the channel, however you guys do it. But then whenever you finish with the show here on TikTok, make sure that you double down over on YouTube side of things, like, subscribe over there, because there's a whole archive. There's years of information on financial improvement, self-development that a lot of guys and ladies don't know about, because it's common knowledge that I have been culminating over the years and bringing it into a scenario where you guys can improve, because it's the things that's in your life that you don't like, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that your life sucks. Everybody who comes to the channel, your life sucks in so much different. Everyone, me too. There's something in your life that you don't like. You allow it to stay that way. You have never thought about looking for another way to change the way things are, specifically because you've got so much stuff going on, to the magnitude where ultimately you just get out of bed, you go to work, you do what you got to do to get money. When you finish with work, you come back to the house, you're too tired to do anything else, and you go to bed. On your days off, and if you get off early, you spend extra time trying to catch up on other things that you've allowed to delay because you're too stressed out to deal with all the stuff at one time, and you ultimately find yourself on a day-to-day, week-to-week, like robot mode, just showing up, getting it done, and then going to bed. Recognizing that you're not satisfied with something that's going on in your life and not actually putting forth the effort to make a change on that. Here on This and That, we're giving you guys ways to a lot of information that you guys can use to on a regular basis to really just start making small changes here and there inside of your control, and then let go of the stuff that's outside of your control, because you can't make other people cooperate with you. But what you can do is replace the people that don't want to cooperate with you. The same way a business would fire the staff if the staff doesn't follow instructions is the same way that you have to remove people out of your network, and you have to remove people out of your personal life when they're not cooperating with your objectives, right? And this is something that a lot of us have to pay attention to, and we have to reinforce. So let's go ahead and get started with tonight's show. And feel free, I'm gonna be watching multiple comment sections. So as I see y'all's comments flow in and they're appropriate, you will see me throwing you guys a lot more responses going on there. So bear with me as we go on here. But we're going to be here for a couple hours. So, and for those of you on TikTok who are not used to this, this podcast goes live every single night, and we are here from around 11:30 Eastern Standard Time till like 2 o'clock in the morning. So we're here. And sometimes it varies. Sometimes it's shorter. Sometimes it's longer, especially if Sterling's coming here talking about how much he hates Walmart. But because we're here for 9 hours with this guy trying to convince me, and I was like, yeah, no, personal decision-making skills come first. Because we talk about accountability and responsibility. And that's going to be another thing that's going to be a challenge for some people. But make sure that if you got a comment, you got a concern, make sure that you throw that in there. Now, if you find yourself an unopened letter from a collection of agencies that you don't recognize, and it's addressed to your partner. If you're in this particular hypothetical situation, you ask them about it, they get defensive. They say things like, it's just old stuff, nothing to worry about, and then quickly change the subject. You might tell yourself it's an emotional issue, right? Maybe they're ashamed, or maybe they're dealing with some baggage from the past in a relationship that they don't really want to talk to you about at this moment. You'll think that it's a classic relationship hurdle, something that you can work through with a little patience and understanding. But what a lot of women might fear, fellas, what if it's more than? What if that defensiveness, that scarcity, the secrecy isn't just a personality quirk? What if for you, especially if you're an expat living thousands of miles away from home, what if that's uh, a crumpled letter that is a flare signaling a threat to your visa or your savings account and your legal right to exist in another country that you now call home? I gotta tell you, I don't even collect the mail at my house. Other people collect the mail on my behalf. But the majority of the stuff that comes in for me comes in via email and text message. And that's one of the reasons why we call that paperless billing, paperless notifications. Anything that I am officially already signed up with, they know to email me the information. But somebody that I have not had that relationship with, we start off with us mailing stuff back and forward until we get to an electronic transfer system. As we progress in technology, it's becoming more common in more areas, but less developed areas or less productive areas don't actually have that. So a lot of times important stuff does come directly in the mail the way it used to for the last hundreds of years. And when it does come, if your partner knows that there's something wrong and they hide it from you and you allow that to happen, you might find yourself in a world of trouble after the fact. Foreclosures that you didn't know was happening, evictions, repossession of vehicles where your partner just didn't say anything about it for whatever reason. You're thinking everything's fine because the lack of knowledge actually in this kind of situation is more detrimental to you than the knowledge itself. For expats, the line between a romantic problem and a financial catastrophe is going to be a terrifyingly thin line. And I know Stephen said that, special shout out to Stephen and Michael. Stephen said that he was concerned about getting an expat from another country because of the whole human trafficking concern. And I'm like, man, if you do it right, legit, sign all the papers, get stuff done in advance, have the foresight and the foreshadowing to proactively put all your ducks in a row, you don't got any problems. But if you're trying to cut corners and fact track things, you might find yourself in a world of issues. Same thing with getting into a relationship. If you're not paying attention to the type of person that you're getting this stuff involved in, for whatever reason, you know, the intimacy might be good or whatever the case may be, but you will find yourself in a type of situation where the person is more diabolical than you would have ever thought possible. And that is when you start finding that your worst enemy is right behind you, not in front of you, right? So a partner who is bad with money, not an evil person. It isn't just a charmingly chaotic personality where this trait is something that you can manage if you manage all the finances, because we had that on the show the other night, other Sunday night, where a lady was talking about how, the dude was talking about how he was like 13 years younger than this woman. He was dating her. She was financially irresponsible. And even though she had free rent with her apartment because her dad was a landlord, she still was overdrafting her bank accounts. Look, there are people, men and women alike, that are financially irresponsible. Not necessarily because they'll do things like waste money on bullshit or run off with other capital gains, but you have certain people that just inconveniently spends the right amount of money on the right thing at the wrong time, right? Simply cashing in on a secure credit card with the money that you needed to pay your car note, where you now don't have the cash to pay your car note. You got the secure card, but you've got to pay your car note in cash. If you don't have any more cash, now you got to go borrow money from somebody else to cover the spread. While it was a good idea, it might have been a good decision to get the secure credit card, the timing could be the irresponsible decision making that makes it bad with money. Not necessarily the ideology of the person themselves just wasting it on video games and collectible trading cards and strip clubs or whatever the case else that they might be spending their money on, right? So you've got to understand their behavior can set off a chain reaction of cross-border legal and financial problems when you're dealing with a partner overseas that's not good with the money, and the financial problems that could unravel your entire life abroad. And I'm talking about this because, fellas, with 52 weeks a year, I'm telling you guys about 52 countries a year that you can potentially go to and live at and start a life with your partner. If your partner is in charge of finances, this could be a problem for you, right? If you think the issue in this type of situation is going to be their, look, how are you just going to fall? It's going to be their emotional avoidance. The reality is that their avoidance might be a direct threat to your balance sheet. Okay. It might negatively impact your immigration status and your long-term security. Because unlike America, that allowed some people to be in the country for 13 plus years without their status being updated, in other countries, they're like immediate deportation style, bans on your return styles, all kinds of issues that are harder to rectify, where I didn't know is no excuse. They say on a regular basis that ignorance is no excuse for the law. So if you didn't know and you didn't try to find out, then you are just as liable as the person who did know, right? So today we're not just talking about some budgeting tips. We're talking about several survival tips. And we're going to be dissecting 7 critical red flags that you can look for in your relationship problems that are actually indicators of serious risks for an expat, but you can also utilize this as financial concerns in your personal life here in the States. We're going to explore how to tell the difference between a romantic hurdle and a financial time bomb that could cost you your savings, your home, your ability to stay in a specific country. And I want you guys to understand that this isn't about judgment, because we expect you to be in a non-resentment, non-retaliation, non-judgmental position, right? It's going to be a diagnosis, though, because in the world of expat living, what you don't know absolutely can hurt you. And I know that a lot of people might throw that dynamic out there. Well, what he or she doesn't know won't hurt him. And that only comes to the magnitude of if a problem arises and you put forth the extra effort to fix it, so that by the time they come across the scenario, they're no longer experiencing the problem. The problem has already been resolved. Even in that situation, they should know that you fixed the problem for them. If you got a buddy, they get their license suspended, you find out about it, you should tell them. Even if you pay it for them, you should tell them. You shouldn't just pay it for them and they never know. You should tell them, because whatever caused the issue in the first place cannot be prevented a second time, because the person that was involved in the original issue doesn't know that there was an issue. So we're going to be talking about that. Now, let's start with the most common and underestimated red flags. The complete refusal to talk about money in concrete terms. The scene where you're trying to plan for the future. Maybe you're thinking about buying a property together, or your visa is up for renewal and you need to show proof of funds. You ask a simple question like, hey, can we sit down this weekend and look at the combined income and the debts? Just wanting to be prepared for what's going on, what's about to happen, right? This could also happen if you wanted to buy a house in America. This could be if you wanted to get a secured or unsecured credit card. You're trying to finance a car. You're trying to take out a small business loan. You're trying to do anything that requires proof of income. If you're trying to rent a larger place, and before you fill out this application, you want to know that you guys can verify that y'all have proof of 3 times the rent, which is the standard expectation in America. Really? You're co-hosting now. I wasn't planning on that. Now, in a lot of situations, everything is good. But in certain situations where people don't want to talk about finances, a wall goes up. Instantly, the mood is going to shift. They might get angry, accusing you of not trusting them. They might get evasive, mumbling something about how it's all very complicated and they'll handle it, right? Or they might just shut down altogether, changing the subject so fast that you get whiplash. They might even say that they're protecting you from the stress of it all. In a normal domestic relationship, this is a communication problem. Most relationships that don't end well because of communication problems. It points to financial anxieties, a lot of times shame, and in some situations, control issues. It's a big hurdle, but it's usually contained within the borders of one country because both of you usually experience this from your home country. But for an expat, this silence isn't just an emotional issue, it creates a legal blind spot. When your partner refuses to talk about money, they aren't protecting you, they are protecting themselves from accountability, from responsibility in a lot of situations. And in doing so, they're blocking you from seeing the very information that could determine your right to remain in the country. Normally, when you're in your home country, the worst that could happen is that you get evicted, your stuff gets foreclosed on, your car gets repossessed. Why didn't you tell me? Stuff to that effect. Student loan problems. Paychecks start getting garnished. It's not usually all that. I mean, that's terrible news, but it's not all that bad in comparison to getting ejected from a new country because they don't tell you what's going on, right? So let's be clear about the cross-border risks that are become a multiplier here. Because first, your visa and immigration status with many visas have spousal, skilled worker, and investment statuses, which require financial evidence. This requires you to show proof that you're still involved with somebody. If you have a spousal visa, you have to prove that you still have employment. If you have a skilled workers visa, you have to prove that you still have certain money invested in certain areas. If you have investment visas, they're now doing digital nomad visas, which in some countries where they're requiring you to show proof that your out of country income still exists and is still coming in. And you got to recognize that immigration authorities need to see that you and your partner can support yourselves. Whether you both came from another country or if you're from another country, your partner's a native, they need to know that while you, as a non-native, are there, that you are financially covered. The United States has this responsibility thing where the person who brings the expat in has to sign a contract with the U.S. government guaranteeing that at least $20,000 of that person's standard of living is covered by the person who brings it. So if the husband brings the wife and the wife is a expat, she is covered under his income up to $20,000 of her standard of living. If a woman brings her husband in and he's a foreigner, he is covered under her income up to $20,000 to make sure that you don't bring somebody here and they become a financial burden on the United States government, right? Other countries are like, well, if you can't prove that you can afford to stay here, you got to go. They're not going to say, oh, well, the other guy's got to pay. They're going to tell you, you've got to go. So if your partner is hiding significant debt or has lower income than you thought, then they've led you to believe that while everything was supposed to be okay, that it's not. The documents that they sign and submit could contain misrepresentations if they're inflating their income to satisfy governmental expectations, when proof of income is called up, you don't have it. You are not hosting this show. I don't care. Jesus, you get your own podcast, Paul. Wow. See, the boy is quiet, the girl not so much. Anyway, you might not know it, but the application could be denied on the very grounds of not having enough funds. Worse, a future discovery could lead you to, come here, your visa being revoked, which is terrible. Their silence isn't just rude, it's a direct threat to your residency. Second, there's the critical issue of tax residencies, which is a huge thing that you guys got to pay attention to. The global tax system is a complex web that the United States has a tax treaty with like 155 plus other countries. Some countries, including the United States, have tax citizens who have worldwide income. No matter where they live, they're supposed to send that taxation back to their home country. So if your partner is evasive about where or if they file taxes, you have no way of knowing that your household's true legal obligations might not be getting fulfilled. Are they accumulating a massive undeclared tax liability that could one day result in penalties and fines that cross borders? I wasn't asking you, I was asking them. You are making this difficult. All right, we're sitting here and talk to the fans. A failure to plan properly can easily lead to double taxation when you're making overseas income, where you're paying taxes on the same income twice to two different countries, which is going to be gutting your savings. Finally, there's a danger of joint liability. The moment that you open a joint bank account or co-sign a lease, you could be legally binding yourself to your partner's hidden obligations. Creditors, tax authorities, they're all getting more sophisticated through international information sharing agreements that we've talked on this show plenty of times over the last 6 months. It's becoming more possible for a debt from one country to follow a person to another country. That old stuff where your partner didn't want to talk about it, if it results in a court judgment, it could potentially show up as a lien on your shared apartment or a claim on funds from your joint bank account. So here's going to be your actionable diagnostic. The next time that your partner says it's complicated, when you ask to see a bank statement, tax filings, or credit report, you have to understand what's happening there. They aren't just asking for emotional patience, they are asking you to accept a massive, unquantified risk. Your response shouldn't be to back down. Okay? It should be that I understand that it's complicated, which is why we need to look at the documents together, because my legal status here can depend on our financial transparency. So let's book a time with a cross-border financial advisor to sort it out. That's the kind of conversation that you guys got to have. I know that if I'm talking to one of my partners about getting the taxes done on time, I'm hitting them up every day during tax time. Like, hey, did you get the files done? What do you need to get done? Tell me what's missing. Send me the files. I'll send you the records. And I'm on them until I get confirmation from them that the taxes is filed. Why? Because if I don't pay attention to any taxation that my partnership in the business is tied to, my partner could get me drug into legal actions under the business, because just like in a marriage, partnership in a business ultimately could be both of y'all as personal guarantors responsible for fixing the problem financially. So if your partner refuses, when you start trying to talk to them about money, if your partner refuses, don't have the observation that you guys have a communication problem, because that's not always the case. It's not just considered a communication problem because your partner doesn't want to talk to you about it. You have a communication problem when you are not capable of clearly articulating to your partner the issues and concerns that you have, and your partner is not articulating back to you the proper responses to resolve the situation. That's a communication problem. Your partner refusing to release information to you that would definitively impact your ability to function, that is not a communication problem. That's a larger problem. You've got a fire on fire. Their silence is creating an information gap that leaves you vulnerable and blind. In an expat relationship, financial transparency isn't a romantic ideal. It's a non-negotiable expectation for behavior, and it's a requirement for the expat survival. So even if you were to go to another country, like say the Philippines, because you'll always hear me say, like #1 best wife to grab is potentially from the Philippines. Like top 5 countries are all in the Southeast Asia. You got the Philippines, Vietnam, China, Taipei, Taiwan, all of these places where the Eastern culture still has superiority for family orientation over career and everything else. While they are still being westernized, they're more drawn to taking care of the family, which is what men are missing in the Western culture, right? So even if you were to get one and bring them back to America, this would apply to you. You're handling all of your finances. You bring them over. They may not have a job, but you're handling all of the finances. Their citizenship status, their residency status, their ability to even stay in the United States might be dependent on your financial information, which still would be mutually respectful for you to keep them in the know, because it is their future in your country that is in your hands if you're handling it all by yourself, right? The silence would be creating an information gap that leaves the expat vulnerable and blind. And in an expat relationship, financial transparency isn't what you want to see, okay? So the second red flag is going to be very seductive. It's intoxicating. It doesn't look like a problem. It looks like a dream that you moved abroad for. It's an expat adventure facade. You're living in a glamorous city like Dubai, Singapore, London. Your partner is the lifeline of your partner, right? Insisting that you live the 5-star dining lifestyle, spontaneous weekend trips, front row seats at every major event, and especially if you're going to other countries that cost way less to make it happen than what you do here in the United States, that might be the life that you always wanted but never ever achieved. Your partner might shower you with expensive gifts and always pick up the check. When you raise a small voice of concern, wondering if you should be saving more money, they wave it off. We're only young once. I hate that phrase. They say, you have to live a little. Don't worry. I've got this. I don't like that saying either. It feels like generosity. It feels like romance, but very often it's a mask for profound financial fragility. And this behavior is a flashing neon sign of mismatched money values. And I told you guys every night on the show that mismatched financial values is going to be the first thing that destroys your relationship. But in this situation, it could destroy your citizenship status. And this is going to be because one person is focused on building a stable future, and the other person is treating their income and often their credit as disposable fuel for maintaining an image. The difference between short-term gratification and long-term satisfaction. So at home, a spendthrift partner is a problem. Abroad, they can be a huge liability of catastrophic proportions. The cross-border risks is a multiplier here and is very immediate and very severe and definitely needs a quick addressal. So first, let's talk about the cost of living shocks, because expat life, especially in major cities, comes with an incredibly high fixed cost. Rent, mandatory international private health care insurance, maybe even international school fees. These aren't optional. When your partner's compulsive spending eliminates the financial buffers that you would have had, the emergency funds are gone, you are living on a razor's edge. A sudden job loss or medical emergency doesn't just become a stressor, it becomes a potential trigger for insolvency. So you have no local family to back you up on this, no long-term credit history to leverage for loans or anything like that. The buffer isn't a luxury, it is your only safety net. And I've talked to you guys about this on plenty of occasions, where you are supposed to have some kind of financial buffer in your life to alleviate the stress of decision making in complicated financial situations. And one of the things that allows you to make more decisive decisions is, in fact, the additional time to take action on the decision. If you need money now for tomorrow morning, you're going to be making more impulsive decisions tonight to make that happen than what you would if you need that money in 30 days or even 60 days. You've got more choices, right? Second is often invisible risk of currency exposure, because your partner might be spending lavishly in a strong, stable currency like Swiss francs or euros. But is their income in that same currency? Because if they are funding a high flying lifestyle in a strong currency with income from a weaker currency, your financial stability is at the mercy of foreign exchange markets. A sudden 10% drop in their home currency's value can instantly strain your budget, making your rent, bills, and other things much harder to pay. So what looked like a solid income can turn into a trickle in the bucket, leaving you in a hole in a foreign country. I know most of us have felt being in a financial hole or a financial chasm, and digging yourself out of that is difficult in and of itself when you're in your home country. But digging yourself out of that when you're in another country, far, far more complicated. This brings us to the third and most brutal reality: limited safety nets. Because as an expat, you are operating without a social family support system at all. You grow up with this type of support system in your home country. You feel like you've got everything under control in your home country. But when you move abroad, or sometimes when you move to another state, even in your home country, your support system isn't there the way you would have had it had you not relocated. So when you do relocate, this is a huge situation. If your partner's overspending leads to bankruptcy or a court judgment, there's often no one that you can call. You can't just move into your parents' basement for a few months. You may not have access to local social security welfare programs, right? The consequences of a financial collapse are not just embarrassing, they are absolute. So you could face eviction, frozen bank accounts, and the loss of your right to work in that country, all in a system that you don't fully understand. So here's your actionable diagnostic. You must separate the performance of generosity from the reality of financial health. And I tell ladies this on a regular basis. When you go out on dates with dudes, you do not want to rush out on a date with a dude that's going to take care of everything for you, and you don't know how much this thing's cost. Even if they got it covered, you should know, not for the sake of, oh, well, if he spends so much X, Y, and Z, then I might have to reciprocate. You should know what's going on with his financial decision-making skills, because men being protectors and providers comes at the responsibility of the man to be able to budget, to provide long-term, not just frivolously get out there and entertain short-term. So if his financial decision-making skills got him making it rain on a perfect stranger on first contact, where he doesn't even know your last name, and he's willing to go for broke on first contact, that is his core behavior pattern from first contact. Now, the wild part about that type of behavior is that if you stay with that type of person over time, that person would cause you financial concern, because that person would not be reciprocating the financial stability. As money comes in, it'll go back out for that person. That'll be the same person when y'all be married 10 years and they're making it rain for a bachelor party, or throwing big expensive birthday parties for the kids, and it's still financially wasteful. The fun, spontaneous spender persona is often a cover for insecurity and a lack of a plan. The old saying that it's the thought that counts. You can, with very little money, put in a ton of effort to go all out for somebody else's special occasion. Or you could just buy something expensive. If you buy something expensive and they jaw drop on the expensive item, there's no effort involved. Get the money, buy the item, give it to the person, problem solved. But construction paper, paper mache, building something from the ground up, actual effort, that takes a lot of planning. So you need to ask direct questions to your partner. If you said things like, I love the life that we're building, but for my own peace of mind, I need to understand our cash flow. Can we look at our credit card statements together, just so that we're on the same page about our monthly spending? Pay close attention to the reactions. Is it open and collaborative, or is it defensive and dismissive? Because if your partner is relying on credit, buy now, pay later schemes, or mysterious funding to maintain the image, and mysterious funding could be anything. It is money that was acquired without him having to go to work, and it doesn't have an identified source, and it wasn't the dividends from an investment. That is mysterious funding, money that just comes out of nowhere. It could have been from a loan. It could have been from an advancement, but it wasn't tied to a legitimate action that you were aware of, right? They aren't just being irresponsible here. They are borrowing against your shared future in a high stakes environment with zero margins for error. The glamour of the expat adventure is wonderful. Once you get on it, I encourage you to ride that wave for as long as possible. But it has to be built on a foundation of reality, which is one of the reasons why on Wednesdays we tell you guys all of the different countries that you can go to, live in, and invest in. It's not supposed to be about a mountain of hidden debt. which is why I give you guys the real financial ideas of the cost and behind the scenes expenses that not too many people talk about when they tell you that you can go to another country for $1,000 a month and live. It is true in some places like Japan, but that is to live the way the locals live at that income level. That is not living the Western culture lifestyle in another country. Sometimes it is exactly dollar for dollar the same price. So if you're planning for a trip abroad, thinking that $1,000 will get you 30 days in another country, and like I told you, I think it was we were talking about Seoul in South Korea, where, oh yeah, the rent is reasonable, but you have to give them $8,000 as a deposit to get the apartment. Hold on. If you brought $1,500 a month for the rent, a little bit of extra on top of that, and you thought you were going to be there and everything was going to be good, but you need $8,000 to get started, the per month expense is not your concern. It's that hidden $8,000 unspoken expectation that you find out when you get there. So had you brought 24,000 to go out there and do something that you thought might have cost you 5,000, you would have had the money. But if you would have only brought 5,000 thinking that you were going to knock out what you need to knock out, now you need $8,000 that you didn't bring with you, you're trying to figure things out. So you don't want to have the expat adventure with a mountain of hidden debt or hidden fees and expenses. And this is going to bring us to the third and perhaps most insidious red flag out of 7 red flags we're talking about tonight. Is going to be the hidden debt that spans multiple countries. Okay. Now this often starts with vague reassurances. You might know your partner has student loans back home or maybe an old credit card. When you ask, they tell you it's all taken care of or it's just a small amount. It's handled, right? They are masters of the minimize and dismiss type. But they never show you a statement that proves what they're saying is true. The debt exists in an ambiguous fog. One day, that fog clears. You might stumble upon a letter from a foreign collection agency, or you're applying for a mortgage only for the credit check to reveal a default on a loan that you never knew existed. Suddenly, you realize that you haven't just partnered with a person, you may have inherited a portfolio of hidden financial liabilities scattered across the globe. And this is a classic form of financial infidelity. Most people look at infidelity simply as your partner having physical intimacy with another person outside of the relationship. But infidelity can happen in a lot of ways: withholding information, deceit, where you're lying about the true status of your situation, doing things with the money that your partner didn't know anything about. Your money being disconnected from your partner's knowledge is a level of financial infidelity. But for expats, the consequences are exponentially more dangerous, because a secret credit card back home isn't just a breach of trust, it is a potential legal grenade. So the cross-border risks has a multiplier here that is also a minefield. First, we're going to talk about the cross-border debt enforcement. It's a myth that if you move to another country, your old debts can't follow you. I know a lot of people jump ship from Dubai and they go to other countries, especially countries that don't extradite, to evade debt. While pursuing ordinary consumer debts across borders can be very difficult and expensive for creditors, a legal landscape is changing to make that less difficult. Thanks to those international treaties I tell you about and the information sharing agreements between tax authorities, it's becoming easier for creditors to enforce court judgments from one country in another country. Specifically, if the money isn't in a trust. So if you own your assets in another country, because the majority of tax treaties and the majority of tax laws that are out there where they're sharing information is from one person in country number one going to country number two, and the finances being reported for both countries. So if you have $100,000 in America and you're living in, Switzerland, Switzerland knows. If you're making $200,000 a year in Shanghai, America knows. It's in a trust, completely different position, which is one of the reasons why you guys should go back and look at some of the shows that we covered on the YouTube channel about the trust, non-residential trust, offshore trust accounts, and other such stuff, because it is very important. But if you're out there on your own, under your own social security number, especially in other countries, these judgments can come because it is your personal money that is in your accessibility, and a court order to seize assets is an order to seize assets because it's assets under your name, right? Tax obligations and large civil judgments are particularly portable. So if your partner has a large unpaid tax bill back home, that country's revenue service has the power for the international networks to help them pursue getting the money back. So your joint assets, when y'all start getting bank accounts together and stuff to that effect, including bank accounts and properties, could become targets to satisfy a debt that you had no part of creating. Second, and this brings us to the danger of commingling assets. The moment that you open a joint bank account or put both your names on a property's title, you are intertwining your financial fate with your partners. So from a creditor's perspective, every dollar in that account is potentially available to satisfy a judgment against either one of you. You may have diligently saved your own money, but put it into a shared pot where you may have exposed that exact pot to your partner's hidden past. So you can wake up one morning to find your account frozen or even emptied by a court order related to a debt from a country you've never even visited. Third, on a more personal level, is the way hidden debt forces you to subsidize the past. The money that you earn as an expat often comes at a higher opportunity cost. You move away from your support network, all in the hopes of building a better financial future. When you discover your partner's hidden debt, where does the money come from to pay off your partner's debt? It's going to come from expat income. Your hard-earned savings are now being diverted to plug a financial leak that your partner concealed from you. You're not building a future together. You are single-handedly repairing your partner's past. So here's an actionable diagnostic. Vague reassurances are not enough. You need proof. When your partner says a debt is taken care of, you need to see a zero balance statement. When they say a loan is just a small amount, you need to see the official loan documents. Frame your request as a necessity for planning. Say, for us to build a solid financial plan together and protect our assets together, we need to complete the picture of all our liabilities together in every country. It's not about trust, it's about math. So let's gather that paperwork so that we know where we stand. That's a very good statement to have. Special shout out to OG Kicks diving in from the YouTube channel. Again, if your partner refuses or get angry, you have to recognize this for what it is. They are prioritizing their comfort over your shared security. Hidden debt isn't just a personal feeling. It is a ticking legal bomb that threatens an entangled relationship. And all of your assets are involved in that. And it will derail the life that you were trying to build abroad. And this leads us to the fourth red flag out of 7. A direct escalation of the previous points. Right? It's one thing to be quiet about the past tense. It's another to be actively secretive about the present tense. This is going to be the red flag of the black box partner, where the entire financial life of the household is a mystery to you. It might show up in unsettled ways. You might ask a simple question like, which bank do you use? And be met with hostility. Why do you need to know? You might notice them angling their phone away when they open a banking app. Or you might accidentally discover a statement from a bank account that you never knew they had. The money comes in, the money goes out, but you have no visibility. You are living in a financial black box. In a domestic setting, this level of secrecy is a profound breach of trust. For an expat, particularly one who is financially or legally dependent on their partner, it is far more sinister because it can become a mechanism of power or control designed to maintain an information imbalance that keeps your partner in charge of what you've got going on. It keeps you as a dependent, right? So the cross-border risk has a multiplier here. That is going to be about high stakes, and it's going to keep getting higher, probably the highest it'll ever get in this situation. First risk you're going to be looking at is tax evasions and reporting failures, because many countries, most notably the United States, with its FBAR and FATCA regulations, require citizens and residents to report all foreign financial accounts. These are strict legal requirements with severe penalties for noncompliance, including huge fines and, in serious cases, criminal prosecution. So if you have, say, hypothetically speaking, you have American investment opportunities, and you send those American investment opportunities to a foreign bank under your name, your local country, America, must know what those accounts are, or you might have some issues. Now, if your money as a grantor goes into a trust that's under a trust account in another country, that's a different story. If your money goes in as an investor to a business that you control and the business bank account in another country, that's another story. But your personal bank account, say you got a bank account in Florida and you've got another bank account under your name in Switzerland, and you've got another bank account under your name in Shanghai, all of those bank accounts have to be reported. You guys got to take a look at some of our older videos. It gets crazy. So if your partner is maintaining secret, undeclared bank accounts, they are likely breaking some laws and you don't even know about it. But if you are married or file taxes joint, their problem can become your nightmare because you are tied to those accounts that you knew nothing about. So while some systems have innocent spouse provisions, proving your ignorance is an exhausting and expensive legal battle. I'm going to tell you something. In America, you're guilty until proven innocent, and ignorance is no excuse for the law. If you are an Uber driver and you pull up to a location 5 blocks away from a bank robbery and somebody jumps into the car, probably the person that paid the fare, and gives you a destination to drop them off. You drop them off, and then you go on to your next fare. Later on, that person, you aided them in escaping this robbery. Certain key factors like them taking a mask off after they're getting in their back seat, having large bags that look like it was filled with money, potentially holding firearms with them at the same time. They presumably looked like they were getting away, and you helped them. I didn't know he was robbing a bank. Not gonna save you. You still aided them in their ability to escape. So you have to understand that ignorance is no excuse for the law. If you even unknowingly, negligence, have something happen that you were involved in, you can be charged with the person who knew what was going on. If you're in the room with somebody that is committing a crime and you don't stop them from committing that crime, you can be charged with an accessory to that crime. And with international laws, those implications can be far more severe in other countries outside of your home country. So while yes, you could find that your joint assets gets frozen while you fight to prove that you knew nothing about the accounts and you didn't even know that they existed. But you can also find yourselves in a larger situation that you can't afford to get yourself out of, where now you're stuck paying restitution for somebody else's mistakes. And I'm sorry doesn't fix everything. Okay. When people do things that they're not supposed to do, and then they get caught doing it, and now they have to experience the consequences, and those consequences has collateral damage to the people around them, you cannot say I'm sorry enough to fix this problem and make it better. I still got to pay for this, right? The second thing you have to think about, what are these hidden accounts being used for? Secrecy of this magnitude almost always exists to conceal something. Is the money funding a second family or child support payments? Is it paying off a secret gambling debt? Is it propping up a failing family business back home? These aren't minor expenses. They are significant drains on the household income that you believe that you guys share. So you can't create a realistic budget or plan for the future if a huge chunk of your partner's income is being diverted to secret purposes. And then when we start talking about international behavior patterns, what if this money is going to illicit illegal activities? That's even worse. Because anything that can be implicated as a profit from an illegal action can also be seized in the judgment. Houses, cars, anything that was bought with criminal money can be seized, which is a huge concern. This leads us to the third and most dangerous risk here is the compounding of a power imbalance. This is especially acute when one partner is the primary visa sponsor. That partner often holds all the cards. Their name is on the lease. They handle immigration. They control the primary bank accounts. When that partner also practices extreme financial secrecy, they are creating a cage. It's fine for 2 out of 3 of those to exist where your partner, you're moving to another country. Yeah, they're going to have everything already fully established in their name. Standard of living, income, a place to eat and sleep and shower and transportation. And if you were going to get a job there, they may even recommend a place for you to go and work and all of this other stuff. They would be sponsoring 95% of the stuff. But the problem comes in at is the secrecy in financing. They should be able to tell you what's going on, right? The non-local partner becomes completely dependent with no access to the funds and no ability to plan for an exit in case an exit is needed. This can become a form of coercive control, where the financial secrecy is the lock on the door that keeps you from leaving. Your actionable diagnostic here, you got to be firm, because this level of secrecy is not a quirk. It can be a form of financial abuse, and you must demand transparency. If you want to use a script in this particular situation, it should be something like this. I can no longer be in a partnership where our finances are a secret from me. It puts my legal status and our future at risk. I need to have a full shared access and visible discussion with you into all of our accounts. Anything that my name is on and anything your name is on. Because if you're not willing to do that, then we have a very serious problem. Even in relationships, even in domestic relationships where your partner is the primary budgeter for all finances, where you get your money, you give it to them, and you let them do what needs to be done. Or they're the sole breadwinner, so they're just doing everything because it's their money. That does not mean that you're not entitled to know what's going on. Think about, in your country, regardless of what country you're in, more often than not, the people have the right to know what the country is doing with the money that they're getting from the people, from taxation. Investors that invest in different businesses get to look at the spreadsheet. I'm fronting you some of my money. Yeah, I'm doing it for a profit, but I get to see your profits and losses. There's never a situation where, even if somebody else controls what the money is going towards, that there isn't full disclosure as to where the money went, where the money came from, when more money is coming in, and how much more money has to go out. So if that's going to happen in international business, it should happen in your personal relationship. If your partner controls the flow of information, then they can control you as well. In an expat relationship, a black box bank account isn't a private matter. It can be a weapon of control and a direct threat to your autonomy and your safety. The 5th out of 7 red flags, because today we're supposed to be discussing the 7 red flags in a relationship that are actually financial warning signs for expats. So the 5th red flag here is going to be one of the most frustrating, because it's disguised as a laid-back, carefree attitude. It's that don't worry about it trap. This is a partner who treats serious legal and financial obligations as optional hassles. You bring up filing taxes in your home country, and they shrug it. I don't live there anymore, so why should I file? Well, you mention the legal requirements to report foreign bank accounts, and they roll their eyes. The balance is too small. They'll never notice. Don't worry about it. You suggest consulting with cross-border tax specialists, and they scoff at the expenses. This behavior looks like laziness or procrastination, but it is something far more dangerous, a fundamental pattern of avoiding responsibility. A person who casually shrugs off their legal duties is broadcasting how they will handle all inconvenient obligations in your life and in your relationship. They believe that the rules don't apply to them. Who's going to hold them responsible for the lack of action? For an expat, partnering with someone in this state of willful ignorance to the laws is like trying to tie your lifeboat to a sinking ship. Cross-border risk will multiply this, and it is not a matter of if, but when the chaos hits the wall. So first, let's be clear about tax compliance. For citizens of countries with citizenship-based taxations like the United States, failing to file an annual tax return is not a passive action. By not filing, your partner could be creating a massive tax liability for your household. I understand that we've talked about on this channel plenty of times as a United States citizen that most Americans don't need to file taxes under certain circumstances. There are some scenarios where they are exempt. There are other scenarios where they are not. As soon as they qualify, because you got to understand, they are required to report income, not wages and salaries. So we have to look at the fact that they will still be brought into court to prove that your income was not a wage or a salary, that it meets certain tax codes. And if it does, then you're liable for back taxes, tax evasion, tax fraud. Usually when we see a lot of people get picked up for, back taxes like MC Hammer, Little Kim, some other celebrities, it isn't necessarily because they failed to file. A lot of times it is because they failed to report when they filed. Big difference. But failing to file can be involuntary, but it is still an issue. Deliberately withholding financial information could lead to legal implications of trafficking and other such situations. Not trafficking, embezzling, that would be the better word for it. Where you're unlawfully moving money from one place to the other without the government knowing what was going on. These are concerns that you have to prevent yourself from being implicated in, right? So the risk of getting caught overseas is going to be higher than ever due to the global information sharing. When the tax authorities do catch up to you, and the faster technology advances itself and the more things automate themselves, the quicker they will eventually catch up with you. You could be hit with years of back taxes because they can go back 10 years under normal circumstances. But if they find something, they can go back even longer. So here in 2026, if they didn't look at your 2016 taxes, that's pretty much it for your 2016 taxes, unless they found something in 2024. Then it can go back to 2001, right? And if you have a history of speculated or skeptical or suspicious financial paperwork, all of your stuff could be unearthed. So your shared savings accounts in these situations could be wiped out to pay for their deliberate negligence. Second is the very real specter of double taxation. Double taxation really sucks. And typically you have to file in both countries to prevent this. And when you file, you have to notify both countries that you filed in the other country. And whichever country you're primarily liable for paying taxes on is the country that you pay taxes to. Proper cross-border financial planning involves carefully structuring your affairs to avoid being taxed on the same income twice. And this is going to be more to the magnitude of if you're a citizen of the United States or a country that requires tax citizens to pay taxes and you're earning income internationally in another country where you work locally and you're getting money. That's when this becomes a problem. So if you are in, say, let's think of a different country. Let's say Germany. Let's say you're in Germany. Let's say you get you a job, start up a little business, whatever, over in Germany. You're making money in Germany, but you're an American citizen. You still got to pay America. If you don't tell America and America finds out from Germany, you still got to pay America with penalties, right? That's what we're talking about. If all of your income is coming from America, where you're not earning another income in the other country, and you're not living in a country that taxes foreign income, then you're good. But if you're living in a country that taxes foreign income, you must report to that country that you pay the taxes to the United States. If you're paying local taxation in that foreign country, you must notify the United States that you already paid that taxes in the country that you're living in. It's just as simple as that. Simply do it. These days with TurboTax on the United States side, you can get your taxes done in less than an hour. I don't know how easy it is in other countries, but in the United States, you can probably get your taxes done inside of 15 minutes, right? So the fact that you're in a situation where you're letting it slide in 2 different countries, that's a huge issue. This is going to require you guys understanding of tax treaties and foreign tax codes. And the partner who says don't worry about it is doing none of that. They are steering your financial ship directly into a perfect storm, the Titanic of financial ambiguities. You can end up in a situation where your income is taxed at a higher rate unnecessarily in a country of residence, and then taxed again in your home country, effectively slashing your real take-home pay dramatically. And third, this willful ignorance sabotages your ability to plan for major life milestones. Every significant financial decision an expat couple makes, buying a property, structuring investments, planning for retirement, is shaped by cross-border tax and legal realities. These are not questions that you can Google. They require specialist advice. A partner who refuses to deal with these realities makes it impossible for you to build a secure future. Their refusal to plan in itself, a plan is a plan of chaos. So just not planning is a plan for creating chaos. So here's going to be your actionable diagnostic. You must reframe their laziness as an active risk, because that's exactly what it is. The next time they say don't worry about it, your response must be very firm. And you want to tell them, I do worry about it, because it's my future that is tied to yours. And our ability to stay here depends on us being legally compliant. So your refusal to deal with our tax obligations, because it's not just theirs anymore. You're caught up in their nonsense. So it is our obligations, is a financial decision that affects me directly. And we are hiring a cross-border accountant this week, and we are both going to be on call, right? And if the partner doesn't want to do it, you've got to pay attention to that, because their attitude is not relaxed, it's reckless, right? In the world of cross-border finances, ignorance is not bliss. It is a self-inflicted wound that can bleed you dry. You can't afford to let their irresponsibility become your liability. Now, the 6 out of 7 red flags is the most deceptive because it starts as an act of kindness. It is the trap of overly helpful partners. When you first move to a new country, everything is overwhelming. Your partner, who may be a local or more experienced traveler in that country, steps in to take care of everything. Don't worry, they say. I'll handle the paperwork for your visa, they'll tell you. Let me set up the bank accounts, they say. It's just easier if it's all in my name for now, they'll tell you, right? I'll deal with the landlords, they'll tell you. I'll speak their language is going to be their excuse as to why they're asking for it. It feels like a lifeline, but over time, you're going to notice a shift. That help starts to feel like gatekeeping, because when you ask to see the visa documents, they brush you off because they're taking care of everything. When you suggest getting things in your own name, like bank accounts and other such, they argue that it's unnecessary and it's a complication because they've already created so many accounts that are fully functional under your name. Their help slowly morphs into control, right? Make sure that you guys like and subscribe while you're watching the show. Mash those reaction buttons while you're here. one day you'll find yourself in a situation where the mask comes off, and during an argument, they'll say something like, if you don't like it, you can leave. And we've all been in a relationship where that's happened. Either if you don't like it, you can leave, or if you don't stop, I'm going to put you out, or something to that effect. Everybody's been in that kind of relationship at some point or another, right? But remember, the lease might be in their name. They're your visa sponsor. They're paying for your standard living. Everything is in their hands. When you're in a relationship and your partner gives you the option or demands that you vacate, and all of your lifeline is tied to them, it's a false sense of relief, because ultimately you can't leave. It's a control tactic. It's the same thing that our parents used to tell us when we were kids. Oh, well, if you don't like what I'm doing, or if you don't like my rules, it's my house, my rules. As long as you're in my house, you follow my rules, right? Well, I'll just leave. Well, how? I don't have a job. I can't afford to pay for a place to stay. I don't have any money to feed myself. You know, if I can't take anything I didn't pay for, I'm leaving with the clothes on my back just so that I don't go outside naked, but I don't have anything. So how can I leave and go somewhere else, which by default requires me to stay? And if I have to stay, now what do I have to do? Submit to the authority of the current household. It's a control tactic, right? So these are concerns that you would have to recognize, that you can't allow yourself to fall into those particular situations. In that moment, you might realize the help was never just help, right? It was the construction of a cage, a tool of control that could weaponize your partner at any given moment. This is going to be a classic pattern of financial and coercive control. And for an expat, the cross-border risk is going to be multiplied, because it makes this an existential threat. It's a very dangerous situation to be in. First, the format is the leverage of the visa. The controlling partner knows that threatening to withdraw sponsorship is the ultimate trump card in the relationship, because you control whether or not they stay in the country. It's not just a threat to end the relationship, it's a threat of deportation. And if you've already gotten comfortable with where you are, that is a catastrophic, life-changing threat. It creates a climate of fear where the dependent partner is afraid to voice any dissent. Second is the deliberate creation of information asymmetry. That's going to be really frustrating. The controlling partner assures you that you're kept in the dark. You don't know how much is in the bank, or the true cost of the rent, or how anything is getting paid for. And this fog of ignorance serves one purpose: to prevent you from planning an escape. It ensures that if you were to leave, you would be leaving with absolutely nothing, unable to prove your financial standings or residency history. And some abusers even intentionally let a partner's visa lapse or withhold the documents, making it legally impossible for them to gain a foothold of independence. Third, this dynamic is often reinforced with shame. The controlling partner will constantly criticize your financial knowledge. You're just not good with money, they might tell you. It's a good thing I'm here to manage things. Backhanded compliment. This constant drip of criticism erodes your confidence, making you believe that you are incapable of managing your own affairs and reinforcing your dependency on them. So here's an actionable diagnostic that you guys can utilize. You must see this help for the control it is and what it can be, right? Take steps to reclaim your autonomy. And this isn't about being ungrateful. It's about securing your basic rights. Start by demanding your own access. Create a script like, I appreciate all the help that you're giving me, but it is now essential for my security and my equality in our relationship that I have my own independent access. So I need my own bank accounts. I need copies of all my visas and the lease documents. And I need to be present for any future meetings with the lawyers or the accountants. Their reactions will tell you everything. A true partner will welcome your independence, not have a problem with it. A controller will resist. When your visa and housing depends on them, their help can become isolation. Your independence is not a privilege to be granted. It is a right that you must claim for yourself. So the last red flag that we're going to have tonight is going to be the most fundamental. It's a deep structural misalignment of your core values around money risks and the future. It's the value clash. You want a clear monthly budget so that you can aggressively save for a down payment. Your partner sees budgets as restrictive, preferring to live in the moment. You believe in the 6-month emergency fund that I talk to you guys about on a regular basis. Your partner sees a large savings balance as a lazy money that should be used for a vacation. You want to create a 20-year retirement plan like I tell you guys to do on a regular basis. Your partner dismisses your concerns as paranoid, trusting that it will all work out in the end. In a domestic relationship, these differences can often be managed. But in a high-stakes world of expat life, a fundamental clash in financial values isn't just a source of conflict, it is a structural flaw that can destabilize your entire life abroad. The cross-border risk is a multiplier here because it makes the clash exponentially more dangerous. First, you're in a higher stakes environment. The consequences of financial missteps are going to be greater. A job loss without emergency funds could mean a forced departure from the country in just 30 to 60 days, depending on your visa. A failed investment could wipe out the funds that you need to renew your visa. A partner who doesn't respect these heightened risks is being actively negligent. They are gambling with your legal status and your future. Second, this value clash derails every major life milestone. Building a life across borders requires coordinated long-term financial choices. Where will you buy the house? How will you save for your children's education? How will you build a retirement portfolio that accounts for multiple currencies and tax jurisdictions? Each of these milestones requires shared goals. When there is a fundamental value clash, every decision becomes a battle that saver might fight against, where the spender will battle back. The planner fights the improviser. The result is often paralysis and a cycle of conflict. Third, the partner with incompatible financial values will effectively tax your expat gains. For many, moving abroad is about access to greater financial opportunities, higher salaries, lower taxes, better quality of life, right? This is your expat upside if you're utilizing geo arbitrage. But if your partner's behavior constantly drains your savings or creates legal problems, they are personally erasing that upside. Their recklessness becomes a tax on your success. The extra money you earn is consumed by their irresponsibility. you're working twice as hard just to stay in the same place. The actionable diagnostic here is a shift in your perspective. You must stop seeing this as a difference of opinion and start seeing it as a fundamental incompatibility. It is time to have a big conversation in this situation, telling your partner that we have to talk about our future. If you haven't done so already, you should be asking them, where do you want to be in 10 years? What does financial security look like for you? How much do you need to save each year to get there? You got to listen carefully to what your partner tells you as an answer. Are they engaged and specific, or are they vague and very dismissive? You can compromise on dinner. You cannot compromise on whether or not you have a retirement plan. Expats operate in a high risk, high reward world. A partner who dismisses your valid concerns is paranoid. That's not free spirit. When they tell you that you're paranoid, that's not a free spirit. They actually become a liability to you. If you are not aligned on the fundamental values of security and planning and the responsibilities, you are not on the same team. You are on a collision course, not just with each other, but also with failure. So what do you do? Now we've walked through the minefields of red flags, each one a potential detonator for your life abroad. The core message is this: emotional avoidance in an expat relationship can become financial and legal emergencies. You must stop diagnosing these issues with the language of romance and start treating them with the rigor of risk management. Now, the first step is to spot patterns early on. You want to look for silence around money. Watch for the lifestyle that doesn't match the known income, right? Listen for that "don't worry about it" statement when it comes to critical legal obligations. The second and most critical step is to take action to protect yourself. This isn't about being trusted. It's about being a responsible adult in a high stakes environment. So here are your safeguards. First, conduct an annual financial audit. Once a year, you and your partner must sit down and list every single asset and liability in every country. Now, I've talked to you guys plenty of times about those girlfriend contracts, and fellas, if y'all been taking my advice on that, you should already have this done, and you should be updating it every quarter. But if you haven't done this before, start jotting things down: bank accounts, investments, property, student loans, credit card debts, tax obligations, all of it. If you don't have a clear written picture of your global net worth, you are flying blind. Secondly, you want to demand the transparency that you need through documentation. Don't accept verbal reassurance. If there is a debt, you must see the statement. If there is an investment, you must see the portfolio. A true partner will have no issue with this. A partner who resists is hiding something. Now, I know that, fellas, we want to protect our assets, and we don't want to show our girlfriend all of the money because we don't want her trying to gain access to it and run off with it. But think about this. When you reach the point of prenuptial agreements, one of the things that makes a prenuptial agreement an ironclad, unbreakable agreement is that in the prenuptial agreement, some people word it to the magnitude where all assets are disclosed on the prenup, right? Any assets not disclosed on the prenup is up for grabs in the divorce. And any assets not disclosed on the prenup might effectively breach the prenup. girlfriend contracts have addendums that or can be added to the prenup as addendums, like Michael mentioned on the show before, where you can reinforce that year over year you've agreed to waive any rights to take legal action against any assets that your partner has that wasn't disclosed in the documents. That doesn't necessarily mean that your partner can't go after that as some type of alimony or restitution after divorce. But it does give you a little bit more wiggle room when you're trying to have a reasonable separation after the marriage doesn't work out. But for the average American, the average person around the world who doesn't operate with prenups and contracts, the issue is here that with no paperwork, laws entitles your wife or your husband to claim half of the joint assets that you guys have now, not what each individual person collected and contributed, which is completely different, right? So it's a division of assets of what's here now, where everything is fair game now, since there isn't a contract that completely identifies what you're entitled to versus what I'm entitled to. So you have to make sure that when you're in these kinds of relationships that you pay attention to what you're getting involved in and knowing what's available and what you have to lose. Third, you want to maintain financial autonomy, meaning that you're control over your own financial position. Even in the most transparent relationships, every expat should have their own separate bank account that their partner cannot access. This is your emergency fund, your exit strategy, your lifeline. It is not for secrecy, it is for security. So if your guys are talking about money, you might have bank statements presented, but those bank statements that are presented may have bank account information withheld, account numbers, maybe even the bank that it's even drawn on, like all discreetly covered up so that your partner can't see what money is there. But when you guys are talking about furthering your futures together, when you guys start talking about marriage, you're supposed to have the full financial transparency behavior already locked down. It's none of his or her business is your current behavior pattern is completely unacceptable once you get to that I do phase. Fourth, you want to stay personally compliant. You want to be actively involved in your own visa renewal. Even if your partner's going to help you with it, they're going to help you with it, not completely do it without your presence. Keep your own copies of every official document, and I would advise that you would also keep a digital copy and potentially store it in the cloud somewhere so that you have ready access to print out another copy at any public place if any situation occurs where either your personal residence is no longer accessible to you or natural disaster occurs. Understand that your own tax residency status is important and ensure that your personal filings are up to date. You cannot afford to outsource your legal right to exist, especially to someone else for any reason. And then finally, most importantly, you want to hire a professional to help you guys. The issue that we've experienced throughout the last few hours of tonight's show is cross-border taxations, international debts, and immigration laws that all are incredibly complex, right? Investing in a consultation with a cross-border tax specialist or an immigration lawyer is not an expense. It is the best insurance policy that you can have. When you are, let's say if you decided as one of those passport bros decides to go to the Philippines and you want to go through that app, Christian Filipino, to go and find you a girlfriend or a wife before you get there kind of thing, right? They've got immigration people there for international travel stuff. So all of the paperwork, you've got a professional on deck before you connect with the person so that by the time you and a person have an understanding, you guys have the capabilities to double back and reaffirm whatever's going on in the moment and make sure that all the paperwork is correct before you take the next step, right? Ultimately, the mindset shift is going to be this. You've got to stop viewing these issues as tests of your love and start viewing them as tests of your partner's competence and integrity. Hey, you're not hosting this show. I don't want to hear it. Get your own podcast. What? I got something for you. We're going to turn you upside down. Just like, get over here and talk to the fans. Talk to the fans. Now, you guys got to remember, you need someone who respects the risks, engages with complexity, and is willing to be radically transparent about the two things that underpin your entire life abroad, right? One of the things is your finances. The other things are your legal statuses. Your life as an expat in another country is an investment of your time, your courage, as well as your money. So do not allow a partner's emotional baggage to become your financial liabilities. You want to protect your investments, protect your future, and protect yourself. Now, I want to hear from you guys, because this is a topic that so many people face in silence, often feeling ashamed or even isolated. The comment section can be a place for support and shared wisdom. Anonymously, if you feel more comfortable, share an experience or a red flag that you've encountered. What did you learn today? What advice would you give somebody else? By sharing our stories, we can help each other navigate these challenges and build a community that understands the unique pressures of expat living. Now, as I told you guys, I know TikTok, y'all not used to this, but we about 2 hours in. This is how we roll. But that's all the information that I was able to bring to you guys for tonight. And the first thing I'm going to start off by telling you is, ladies, hey, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I give you this information to help you guys become higher value men, not only by improving your financial lives, but also by improving your decision-making skills. And ladies, well, this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective. You too can make yourselves higher value women just by finding the things in your life that are inside of your control and proactively changing the things that you don't like while navigating around the things that you have that are outside of your control. Notice everything that we talked about today were things that were inside of your control that you allowed to become outside of your control and allowed somebody else to take control over your responsibilities. Your ability to reassure yourself is more important than your ability to trust somebody else to have it for you, right? In addition to that, ladies, you can also pay attention to building your 20 and 30-year plan, right? Reverse engineering that to what you need to do today so that you can accomplish that plan and then staying on that plan. Then, if you keep your eyes and ears open for the potential suitor with the right personality, characteristics, drive, ambition, dedication, motivation, admiration, and integrity to accomplish his own goals, then you can see what his goals are, see if his goals match with your goals. If you guys have the same long-term satisfaction goals instead of short-term gratification goals, you guys can achieve a whole lot more things together, right? I tell you guys every night, 2 people can make it to $1 million faster than 1, but it only occurs when you both have the same financial values, which was the biggest core of today's topic, was recognizing differences in financial values. If one of you is living a life of short-term gratification and the other one is living a life of long-term satisfaction, you guys will always be at odds. If one person has more control over your success than the other, then you will always be at odds and you will be defenseless against those odds. We have to change the narrative and put ourselves back into the position where we have a lot more control over what we're involved in and the outcome that we will experience. Our lives only exist the way they are based on our accountability and our responsibility. And in some situations, our lack of action has directly impacted in the current lifestyle that we have. We cannot continue to blame somebody else or a larger entity for our lack of enforcement. I give you guys every night of the week more and more information on different ways that you can change and improve so that your life no longer hinders you. But it is your responsibility, your determination. You guys have to figure out what changes you're willing to make today, this week, this month. The stuff that y'all used to go through last year in 2025 that wasn't working, y'all should have dropped that by now. The stuff that you still doing in 2026 that wasn't working for you in 2024, you should have quit that already. And you should be proactively putting forward effort into things in 2026 that'll make your 2027 better than 2023. You're supposed to be making your 2027 greater than your 2026. And there is no reason why you are just living in the moment, day to day, week to week, check to check, month to month. We just got past a hot wave. Let's get past the cold wave. Most of y'all spent all y'all extra tax return money on stuff that you did not benefit from, and very few of y'all actually invested or reinvested it into something else where your money will be making more money for you. But one thing I can tell you is that here on This and That, when we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we spend more time telling you guys more ways that you can change your life and then give you the step-by-step blueprint, not only on the channel, but also in the membership, so that you can make proactive changes so that you can find yourself in a better position than you were before you got here. But it really requires you guys to take that first step, because otherwise you will find yourself in a position where your failure is your fault. You can blame whoever you want, but if you're 40 years old and your financial life sucks, that's on you. Yeah, you can blame your parents at 16, 17, 18 years old. You can say that it is stagnated collateral damage from your parents at 25 or 30 years old. 35, 40, 50 years old, bro, you can't keep blaming other people. You have to start recognizing that your financial decisions, the taking off from work to go do something stupid with friends, the loaning money to somebody else's financial mistakes, the taking on too much financial burden. These are decisions that you're making that's making your life harder. And you have to learn how to change those decisions. Loaning money to friends and family just because you got it, then you're going to have to stop doing that. Because as the upside down pyramid that you're holding up, if you fall, everybody around you fails. Because at the end of the day, everyone around you is living off of your standard. But your network is supposed to be a network of people that not only benefit from you, but you benefit from them. And if you're in a scenario where if times get hard for you, you don't even know who to call to help you out of this situation, but you know that you have everybody else that owes you because you've held them down. Look, they came to you because they didn't have it. What makes you think they're going to have it now? Because if they had it, they would have gave it back to you, right? So you got to change the way you do things. Now, before we go, for those of you that's watching us on TikTok, we've got a lot of things coming up. Tomorrow, Sunday, we got questions and comments from the fans. We have at least 60 days worth of shows pre-scheduled on YouTube. Whether you watch us on Twitter, because we also got Twitch up here as well. Whether you watch us on Twitch, whether you watch us on TikTok, or if you watch us on YouTube, or wherever it is that you decide to take a look at us, make sure that you tag the show, like and subscribe to the channel. and pay attention to when we go live, because it's about 11:30 Eastern Standard Time right now is when we go live, sometimes 11:45. But we're here every night of the week, right? Every night of the week. And there's always something different. And we're going to be showing you guys how things are changing in our society. We're showing you, and this is the whole core of the show, is covering two things: how life is changing to impact your money, and what to do to make more money in the current economy. And then the third thing that we give you, better decision-making skills. Because with better decision-making skills, you have the capabilities of effectively being capable of improving your financial life. Because I've already given you guys a financial structure on the show multiple times where you're capable of, true to life, being able to have two incomes in a low-income family, be able to pool your money together and make it to a $500,000 inside of 5 or 10 years, make it to $1 million inside of 15 to 20. And if you guys got enough money going on, you might be able to make it to $1 million inside of 5 to 6 years. It just depends on how much you're putting away, 20%, 30%, 50% of your combined income. But that requires you to not be living a lifestyle that costs 95% of your income. One of the first mindset shifts that we teach you is to live off of 30% of the money that you bring in, where 30% of your required lifestyle is what you're dealing with. And if you put up 20% of luxurious discretionary spending, that's a 50% for the total lifestyle, where the other 50% is available. So if you were a $40,000 a year man dating a $40,000 a year woman, both of y'all teachers, right? But you got a $50,000 a year lifestyle. Out of $80,000, that's $30,000 that y'all could be investing somewhere else. Where both of y'all are making that's the bottom 25 percentile, those individual incomes. But combined, if y'all are making $80,000, $85,000 together, y'all are living a $30,000 lifestyle, $35,000, $40,000 lifestyle, $50,000 lifestyle. Off of that $80,000, y'all still got $25,000, $30,000 there. That if you weren't wasting it on lifestyle creep, you would put away $25,000 a year in compound interest, where we've got portfolio blueprints walked out in a membership where you could be drawing back upward of 15% return on investment year over year, where, in 10 years, the principal would be $250,000 to $300,000 plus compounded interest, which would likely push you into the $450,000 to $500,000 range. With low income salaries, when you start talking about restaurants that are putting out $55,000 to $65,000 a year, we're talking about $18 to $20 an hour now. Because before, with $45,000, you're talking about $7 to $10 an hour. But let's talk about $25, $30 an hour, $15, $20, $18 an hour jobs. The two of y'all are making $55,000 a piece or $60,000 a piece. Both of y'all managers at fast food restaurants. That's $120,000 combined income. You should not be spending $120,000 combined life expenses. It should have been, because comfortable standard of living is $68,000 a year. So if both of y'all are making 65, you should be comfortable at 72. And out of 130, 72, that's $60,000 extra dollars. $60K a year, that's 600 grand plus interest. That's like 1.4. And so it's not the prestige of the job that women should be paying attention to. It's the financial decision making of the man that they have. Because if y'all was able to have two incomes coming in and y'all live off of one and a half, the other half that y'all aren't using, you don't waste that on entertainment. You don't waste that on keeping up with the Joneses and showing off with your friends and family and neighbors and stuff. You put that away for the type of lifestyle where both of y'all can quit and spend the rest of y'all days with each other. Because if you're getting even at 10% return on investment, 60 grand would be showing you what? 600,000 would be showing you 60 grand. That's one of y'all's income. In 10 more years of y'all continuously doing that, you likely have 3 times more money, where you'd be dealing with 120 grand. If you got a brokerage account that's paying you 120 grand, in 20 years, and y'all, that's a good retirement setup. The two of y'all was making 120 grand together, and now the two of y'all don't have to make that 120 grand because your brokerage account is making it for you. You would be able to retire in a way where you will never have to work again, and your standard of living will be covered. But remember, if you're living off of half of the money that's coming in, you've got plenty of money now to raise your standard of living 20%, reinvest 20% back into the brokerage account. So you went from half to like 70%. You took like 15%, put it back, and now you got what, 15% more to do what? Travel the world with. So many women say that they love to travel. Where the fuck do y'all go to? To the club on ladies' night. How many of y'all have a budget to visit a different country every season or once a year? Most don't. You would love to travel if somebody paid for it, but you don't got it in your budget to do it. Why not find the right partner where y'all can build the kind of retirement where traveling the world is part of your retirement? A different country every week. Or, because I mean, there's hundreds of countries around the world. If you're really going to travel the world truthfully, not just select 10 of your favorites. If you're truthfully going to travel the world, you know, even if you spent a 1 week in each country, that's 52 countries a year. It would likely take you 3 or 4 years to travel the world. But if you really wanted to just live in 3 or 4 other countries that you really liked, that requires a budget. And why would it require a decent budget? Because you would effectively have to pay for your standard of living at home and your standard of living abroad, so that when you're done traveling, you still have a home when you come back to your state of origin, your country of origin. That requires a whole lot more budgeting and planning that not a lot of people think about. So when you think about your retirement, what about your health, medical treatment, bills, doctors, medication, in-home help, nursing home? What kind of retirement do you want to have? If y'all don't plan for this, you're not going to be ready for it. It's not going to work itself out. There's a lot of stuff that we are entitled to in every country around the world, but we don't get it if we don't ask for it. You must fill out a form and request it. So you must know what you're entitled to. You must know what you qualify for. You must know how to qualify for it if you currently don't qualify for it, because if you could be entitled to it, you just need to change your dynamics. Why not change your dynamics so that you qualify for it? These are the things that people don't think of. But that's what I'm going to leave you with thinking tonight. So we're going to be wrapping up TikTok. We're going to be wrapping up YouTube, Twitch. I appreciate you guys. Special shout out to OG Kicks, Mike, Aztec, Steven, Unc, Andy. I appreciate you guys. Loyal members of the membership over on YouTube side of things. Dylan, he's been working hard lately. I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.